Hello, my name is Susan Hirata. Welcome to the 17th Annual DisOrient Asian American Film Festival. I want to take a moment and tell you a little bit about how we choose our films. We are looking for films that are by, for, and or about Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, either in front of or behind the camera. Every submission is screened by at least 3 screeners. All of the films in our program have been viewed multiple times as we decided which films we will include. And this is the agonizing part because we have way more good films than we can take, and we have to make really hard choices. And finally, all the films need to fit into a well-rounded program covering a variety of themes. So I hope you are all enjoying our carefully curated program as much as we've enjoyed the films. Today, it's my pleasure to have a film conversation with the filmmakers of the shorts program, Emergent Artistry. With us today from State of Being, we have Ouree Lee. From Wo, we have Jieman Yang. From Brushstrokes, we have Elisa Gao. From Wavy Love, we have Jeffrey Wu. And from Uyafaafuji's Refusal and Ode to the Yanbaru, we have Sho Yamagushiku and Joseph Kamiya. This group of films have art as the connecting point. Either the film is about art or an artist, or it's artistically done, or in many cases, both. To begin, would all of you introduce yourselves and your film? How about Joseph? How about you go first?
Hey, Zai. My name is Joseph Kamiya, editor and composer of Uyafaafuji's Refusal.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sho, and I worked with Joseph on Uyafaafuji's Refusal, which is our reflection on the Yanbaru rainforest in northern Okinawa.
Hi everyone, my name is Jieman. My film is War, which is a dance film that is inspired by my personal journey and struggle as a dance artist, an immigrant and a queer based in New York City.
Hi everyone, such a pleasure to be here. My name is Ouree Lee and I directed State of Being, which is a reflection of growing up in Kentucky as a Korean American woman. And it's basically a music video with 정선 아리랑, which is a Korean anthem sung by a wonderful singer, Song So-hee, as the music.
Hi everyone, my name is Jeffrey Wu. I'm the director of Wavy Love. It's a moody music video about Casper's son, our artist who searches for his long lost love in the city, but she may or may not exist. Thank you for having me.
Hi, my name is Elisa Gao. I'm excited to be here, and my film is called Brushstrokes. It's a sort of almost like documentary / animation, animated short style film on my family's relationship with Chinese calligraphy and the things that I've learned from that art form. So.
Cool. Okay, so let's jump right in. I am going to direct the first question to Ouree. The meditative visuals and music in your film conveys a lot in your 4-minute film. And tell us about this personal piece and envisioning the reconciliation of disparate cultural realities. That was sort of the theme of your film. So beautifully done. So tell us about that.
Thanks so much, Susan. There's so much I could say here, and I'll try to be brief. The film in general was kind of this opportunity to return to this place I called home, or still do call home. And so much of my experience growing up in a place like Kentucky was defined by isolation and solitude in terms of feeling like not very connected to a Korean American community, or feeling very far away from my motherland, or feeling like I was one of very few Asian people, East Asian people, or even people of color in a very dominantly white area. So in making the film and kind of playing with stillness and getting into this kind of magically semi-realistic view of it, it was such a beautiful experience to revisit some of those memories, revisit some of the places that I found solace in, revisit or explore some new places that I'd never been to before. And to really, literally like sitting with these ideas, I kind of wanted to convey that with my film. And I'm very much so inspired by experimental slow cinema. So I think that comes through in my work.
Yeah, it's very stunning and powerful to see the juxtaposition of you wearing hanbok, I think is how you
Yes.
pronounce it. Yeah, in this landscape that looks so Americana with these machineries, you know, going, and it's really stunning, and you can feel that disparateness between, you know, the different cultures, or you can imagine what it feels like to be in that.
Yeah, and I'll just say one more thing.
Yes,
I think
yes.
in my work, I really want people to just sit with me and be with me and through this film. And that's really all I can ask for. So thank you.
Cool. Very nice. Jieman, let's talk about your film. Your courage and vulnerability with this film is so powerful. And of course, your dancing is also so beautiful. And like in Uree's film, there's a need to reconcile disparate cultures and realities. And you say, I could be with my family and be surrounded by people who understand my culture, but I would not be free to express myself. It's such a you know, insightful comment. Can you talk more about that, about your constant having to balance, you know, your freedom of self-expression and maintain your connections?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Susan, for that question and the comments on my film War. And yeah, when you say it's a big, yeah, it took me a while to finally accept that I'm actually telling my own story. It does feel very vulnerable. And as a queer person within a Chinese immigrant family, and oftentimes it's very hard for the older generation to understand this lifestyle. And when I'm surrounded by people in the Chinese community or other Asian community, I often feel it's so hard to be the queer side of me. And because growing up, or like the culture surround me always perceive queer as something like not, you know, like not something people talk about. Something is like a taboo and something that kind of disgrace the family. And I feel sad to these are the current reality, because I love my culture, I love my people. It's somehow this boundary that between the two generations, and that is something it's hard to solve, so it's hard to address. And I just really want to through my story to encourage more people to be willing to tell their stories, to encourage other queer people to or non-queer people to more accept themselves as an individual. Just to start a conversation that will help solve this issue.
Yeah, I was wondering in making this film, has it been cathartic or healing for you? Has your family seen the film? What's been the result of this journey of actually making this film?
I did feel more, I don't feel like a therapeutic way of dealing with my own struggle through making this film. And I received some very good feedback from other people who also have had similar experience as me, and which I feel really great that someone can really resonate with this film. And in terms of my family, they actually haven't seen it, and they usually not very interested in my artistic life. So but I think, I don't know, maybe one day
Yeah,
I'll share with them.
Yeah, all the more poignant then. Yeah, thank you for that. Let's see, Elisa, I love watching the brush move and create the characters in your film. It's so beautiful. Who is creating the calligraphy in the film? I read that you've used some footage from a trip to China. Who is actually writing?
Yeah, so all the footage that you see in the film, it's all actually from 2017. It's my grandfather on my mom's side. So he was very into practicing Chinese calligraphy. And when I filmed that, I actually had no intention of using it for an actual film. I kind of just wanted to practice using the camera and just sort of document these moments, because I thought it was just so cool that he had this sort of passion for the art form. So that's where that footage came from. And I ended up using it for this, so.
Yeah, and so you talk about initially, like you had this childhood disdain towards your culture or towards this calligraphy even, but you've come to really appreciate calligraphy. Was that from making this film actually, or just a process maybe of being in China and growing older?
Yeah, so the background of how I made this is actually a little bit by accident. I kind of stumbled into this project last summer. It was the summer after my junior year of college, and I just wanted to make something. And I rediscovered this old footage that I had. And I remember that actually when I applied to college, I wrote an essay on this topic. So I kind of revisited those ideas that I had, and I reworded it into this new like little script. And just being so many years removed from that, I kind of got to reflect on how calligraphy and the principles behind calligraphy have sort of shaped my own artistic journey. So yeah, I guess in the creation process of this, I was more looking at it from a retrospective angle, where I think years ago when I first wrote about this topic, I already sort of had this newfound appreciation for something that I sort of didn't understand as a kid. But now I think I was more in a clear-headed mindset to really turn that into a more into a more comprehensive film.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I would think even for yourself to see that growth or journey just in a few years, you wrote this thing 1 year and then you're making this film another, and kind of in another place in your life, but also with different reflections maybe on your culture and your life.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Jeffrey, let's talk about your film. Jeff, it's so okay. So this film, your film, Wavy Love, very cool style in your videos. It's really awesome. You experimented a lot and got a lot of great effects. Tell us a little about how you achieved some of these looks. Like I know you experimented with Wong Kar-wai's step printing and these layered visual pyrotechnics. Talk about all of that. It's just all cool. And I know nothing about how you can even have imagined creating that. So let us know.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that's like very on point as far as like the reference, which is like I spent like a month just watching Wong Kar-wai films and, you know, daydreaming of traveling to Hong Kong and just kind of satiating that like desire to see places like that and see it in the way that Wong Kar-wai was seeing it. So I'm personally based in Los Angeles, so the closest place that I felt like was reminiscent of that was Chinatown, where we are, and they actually have a lot of like old neon lights there. That was kind of the first point, but the second, how I arrived to those visual mechanics was through considering like what we were trying to get across, which was this song is kind of like at some points a optimistic love song about how he wants this girl, but upon further listens I felt like there was like a negative undertow of like just in the way the synth sounded, it sounded a little dark, and I put on like my personal experience of having, you know, loved and lost, and the very specific thing is like the intrusive thoughts you have about an ex-lover just kind of like invading your brain, especially in the first scene where he's showering. That's like a personal experience, just showering and be like, oh, it's true. I wasn't expecting to think of my ex in that moment, but I did. And layering kind of like what I know from Wong Kar-wai and just imagining what it would visually look like to have intrusive thoughts. That's kind of how we arrived at some of those effects.
Yeah, very cool. The colors too were really cool, and just all the effects in the film. Yeah. Nice. Tell us a little bit about Popeye Media.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for asking. I guess I was going to talk about this. Maybe it is super fitting with the theme because Popeye Media is my production company, and I just quit my day job to pursue music videos full time. It's been very scary. My parents are not happy at all. I decided that I feel like I'm young enough to just eat off my savings and just see where I can go with music videos and go with my filmmaking. And I just want to know if I have a future or not with directing. And it's been really exciting. I'm so glad you asked that. And I feel so lucky to have like Casper Son, the artist. He is like my friend from middle school. Like I've known him since he was 13, and like just having friends who are supporting my filmmaking career, and I can support them as well. I just so happy to be a part of the festival, and we even mentioned Popeye. Thank you so much.
Well, so just so you know, you are in very good company with a lot of people who are, you know, not quite so sure and doing it anyway and going for it. So good for you. And I will mention, I don't think you've seen it yet, but Elisa's film has this a quote like, everything begins with a leap of faith. So you all have taken that. So yeah, good for you.
Yeah, it's so nice to hear other filmmakers too. So yeah, thank you for allowing me to be part of the Q&A.
Yeah, cool. Okay, Joseph and Sho, tell us a little bit about your film. So this experimental film is so haunting in its tone and visuals. I love the music and I love the spoken word. Tell us about the thoughts you were trying to convey, and specifically maybe tell us about Uyafaafuji, like all of that. Can you do that?
Yeah, so thank you for those kind words. I mean, it was kind of a wild process. So Uyafaafuji means ancestors in Uchinaguchi, the most widely spoken language in Okinawa Prefecture. And so, you know, the process, me and Joey have sort of worked together in different contexts, and it's our first time really playing around with film, but it was sort of like an ongoing dialogue with ancestors and sort of seeing, you know, what's how do we sort of use this film as a way to work with them, and you know, what do we have to offer sort of in terms of a relationship with each other. And I think that you know, a lot of the footage from the film is sort of, as we had this sort of soundscape together, and it was like, okay, what are we going to do for the visuals? And then my uncle sort of had thrust at me these like old tapes of family footage from the 60s and 70s, and I was digitizing them randomly, and then they sort of just fell into my bed one day when I was talking to Joey, and I was like, oh, this is like, and so they created this really perfect sort of visual scape. And you know, it's like they sort of look mundane, but as we sort of started slowing them down, and like the way that they deteriorated over time and stuff, it was really this perfect sort of meeting place for the words and the sounds. And I mean, I would sort of like dream up something, and I'd be like, I wanted the ancestors to have this sort of place to do this sort of thing, and Joey sort of like would then just make it happen. And I can barely, like, you know, load a file onto my computer, let alone do any editing. And so it was I felt really like lucky, because I could just sort of dream something, and then Joey would sort of manifest it on the tech side. And it was, yeah, so it's I'll let Joey maybe talk a little bit about the sounds, and yeah, sort of what that process was like for you. So
Yeah, piggybacking off of what Sho was talking about, like with ancestors, like all the music is original, but only one song has original lyrics, and it's kind of based from this disconnect that I have from my ancestry and cultural heritage, and like kind of representing these like unknown ancestors, but still honoring them by writing and singing in one of the native Ryukyuan languages. And also with like Kumiudui, which is the classical theater of the Ryukyu kingdom, how that would weave like narrative performance with traditional songs that would emphasize the thoughts or emotional state of the character or the passing of time. So kind of also that reinterpreting that classical form as well. And yeah, and then of course trying to take Sho's vision and trying to, you know, manifest that visually and with sound as well.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So beautiful that you're like connecting with your ancestors, kind of calling them in and manifesting them in this film. And yeah, it's very cool. Very powerful.
I think one of the things is like what to do with tradition. You know, it's sort of, tradition can become sort of like static, and realizing that it needs to transform every generation. And so what tools do we have to sort of listen to an older way of doing things, and then also say, you know, this is how it can manifest, you know, in our geographies and places and languages. So
yeah, cool. So for the final question, I wanted to have you all speak to our theme this year is emergence. When we were thinking about the theme, we were thinking that, you know, we're thinking about it, it's springtime. We're hoping that we were emerging from a pandemic, and it's like everything's seemingly new. We're in a different place than we were 2 years ago in our minds and as a society. So can you relate that theme of emergence to your films? What is a quality of emergence in your films? Can you talk about that?
I love this theme so much because I think with my film, I was definitely playing with ideas of rebirth and renewal. And with this theme, an emergence of a new self, an emergence of a new way, a new way of being, a new way of thinking, and seeing my past and present and future. So I really resonate with this year's theme.
Cool.
I can go. And So it was
Yes.
my first, War is my first dance film. And it was supposed to be actually a live performance, but because of pandemic, I had to turn it to a screen dance, which was challenging. And but it was very exciting. And I learned a lot of things and how to work with a filmmaker and composer for the soundtrack. And I really opened up a new new field for me. I feel like it's a really I fulfilling to see this film come to life, and also be able to show it at DisOrient and many more different audience, and which is really new for me and exciting.
Cool. You're an emergent filmmaker at DisOrient. Cool.
Right.
Someone.
I guess I can go.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so excited for everybody. It's actually such a nice feeling. I think for the music video Wavy Love, I feel like the topic of emergence is almost as if our main character is emerging from the kind of smothering of intrusive thoughts and going through that process of exiting, and hopefully exiting like a simulation or a reality that's only in his head. But for overall, like as a filmmaker, to see like my childhood friend emerge as like an artist, and for me to be able to support him from like the filmmaking side. And personally for me, like I started making videos when I was 13. I'm now 27. It's been 14 years of just like making YouTube videos and documentaries and vlogs or anything that like I thought was cool at the time. And to be at a place now where I can say filmmaking is my full-time job, like, and plus being a part of DisOrient, like it's such an interesting point for me personally. And I feel more than ever excited for the future. And I guess I just wanted to share that feeling.
Awesome. Awesome. So Elisa, how about you?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting question because I didn't really think of my film from this sort of specific angle, but I think I talk about this a little bit towards the end of the film. But generally, as you mentioned, Susan, the story is kind of about how like as a kid, I never really understood calligraphy. I didn't really know how to read Chinese as a kid. I just kind of saw it as scribbles and stuff. But now I think as an adult, as someone who designs for like a full-time job, I see this new sort of meaning in what this traditional art form has taught me. So I think in that way, it's sort of interesting to think about how I never actually learn Chinese calligraphy ever, and I don't think I will, but just the ways that I view like forms and shapes and just artistic principles has really been influenced a lot by this thing that I saw so many of my relatives go into. So I guess that's how I connect it with emergence and this idea of like a rebirth.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And Show and Joe.
Joey, do you want to go first?
Well, I mean, personally for me, like because of the use of Uchinaguchi, which I was mentioning is one of the endangered languages of the Ryukyu Islands, you know, the emergence of this language and culture and identity, especially a culture and identity that has been colonized and held down. And, you know, for us to do this with our short film and our performances is, that's how I connect the theme of emergence. Yeah.
Yeah, I think similarly, like, you know, I come from Japanese American incarceration histories, and Okinawan or Ryukyuan history has sort of disappeared from that. And so this film is sort of a work of letting the ancestors emerge, sort of, you know, it's like these things don't ever disappear, but sometimes they lie sleeping for a while. And so, and also just, I keep getting this image of spirits emerging from the rainforest. I think there's this sort of constant through prayer and things, it's you can't force it, but there's a moment where the spirits do emerge, and they have their homes, which are very specific places, and so that's sort of what the film was conjuring. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you all again for taking the time to have this conversation. And thank you especially for all your beautiful films. And I just really appreciate having them in our festival and sharing that with our audience. So thank you so much.